It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's nice and cool again. Global warming. You know, one thing I got a weather forecast for tomorrow from a friend, and he says temperature will be 666 degrees with fire and brimstone all day. Be sure to wear sunblock with a factor of 666. He also sent me. This end of the world as we know it, man. Here we go. And he has a small favor to ask. He said, since tomorrow is Judgment Day, and all that, he goes, some of you guys could really do him a solid, since you're going to be going and hanging with the Lord. He's a ruthless sinner, he admits, but he'd like you to go ahead and just leave the keys to your home and under the front mat so he can go get your furniture because he'd like to, refurnish his home. So these are the kinds of things that are going on. We had Chuck Baldwin write an article this week, and then we had another one right along with it that were atheists were offering to take care of your pets after you leave, and it's ouch, quit it, back and forth. And I'm just, then today we had Pastor Greg Dixon writing. He goes, look, man, I'll see you on Monday. So this is, it's just, is there really anything to this? Are they serious about it, or just a lot of fun to be had at, one individual's expense? It got hyped up and so on. And it's all throughout history. We have so many times that whatever various superstition they've used to control the masses. And it reminded one of my best examples of this that I really got something out of was Apocalypto, a Mel Gibson movie about the Aztecs and so on. And I remember as they have the priests up there plunging obsidian knives into the chests of their victims and ripping their hearts out as it's beating and holding the sacrifice to whatever and kick them down the stairs. Then all of a sudden, the priest and the king looked at each other and they could feel it. And if you ever been through an eclipse or even a partial eclipse in the summer here in Arizona, all of a sudden, the bearing heat of the sun just kind of goes away. I mean, it's still as bright. It's just like all of a sudden you don't feel the intensity of the sun anymore. I mean, you can feel it coming. And if you got your priest have their little sundials out there and they knew when it'd be coming, and I guarantee they're not telling the farmer peasants out in the field, hey, eclipse tomorrow. No, heck no. They're going to take advantage of it. They're going to use it. The sun goes through its cycle and it's not going to be as hot, and we're going to have global warming or global cooling, or now it's just climate change. Well, if you can incorporate that into some control mechanism, or you better, you ought, or we're going to save you, well, you can use it to your advantage. Big bad guy's been doing that for a long time. So do you think the priests and monarchs are sharing all this astrological knowledge with the peasants? No, heck no. So as they're doing this, the priest turns in Apocalypto, turns to the king up on top of the pyramid, and they kind of give each other the nod, and then he did his Ooga Booga dance or whatever, and all of a sudden the sun went away. Wow, middle of the day, my entire life, I'm 25, 35 years old, and it rose in the morning, and it set in the afternoon, and all of a sudden it went black, and then you went Uba, we sacrificed enough people, and then the sun came back. Guess what? You're in charge. You the man. You knew the sun was going to go away, and you made it come back and so on. Yes, and boss, what you want me to be doing? Well, as time goes on, science intervenes, We have a greater understanding. Heck, the dumbest of us probably have a lot more understanding of things than people back in the day, but then again, maybe not either. I mean, we're still just as intelligent. It's just having information, scientific method, just being aware and have your mind open to new things and have enough foundation to process it. Well, we're going to have a fun time today. The entire show, first and second hour, is going to be with my new best friend today, Mr. Larken Rose. Now, Larken Rose came to my attention years ago in his opposition against the federal government on taxes, but it was based on much more than, what your law says and so on. It was like, I don't care what your law says. It's evolved into, the whole thing's a racket. Just this whole concept that you think you have the authority to put me under your authority. Well, he has a new book out. It's called The Most Dangerous Superstition. And I kind of wondering what that might be. Well, it's what? Larken, I got you there. Help me out, man. What's the most dangerous superstition?
Well, in short, it's the belief in authority, which includes all belief in government of any kind, any flavor, any time, anywhere.
Well, as I described, as I've gone through in that example, that was kind of probably a mixture of religion and state. I would imagine that it's, a supernatural threat, but of course they use that to give them a control mechanism through fear or whatever else for the state, for the government, for man's power here. And every time you're talking about some, supernatural entity, it's really to be a justification for more power here. Now, this respect for authority, is it limited to this deification of authority, or have they turned the state and government itself into its own deity? I mean, what kind of argument are you making?
Well, it's actually, I go against the belief in authority entirely, the notion that anybody has the right to rule anybody else. Now, for a long, long time, that was done by way of religion. Not only the example you point out, but when you have the Crusades and other nasty things going on, Spanish Inquisition, all that fun stuff, where people calling themselves a church said, we have the right to rule you and tell you what to do and punish you if you disobey. These days, the threat of that comes almost entirely from government. It's almost entirely done in the name of civil government. Now, the difference between government and religion is that government is the religion that people actually believe in. It's the God that they actually bow to. The building they go to on Sunday, that's just sort of empty window dressing. They don't necessarily even really believe it, but who they bow to and pray to on a day-to-day basis to save them from reality and to smite their enemies and to shower them with blessings, that God is called government. And they don't recognize it as a purely religious belief. They think it's a practical, a way to arrange society so that everything works and all that. And it's not. It is, in every sense, a superstition, and it's considerably less rational than any other belief I can think of. The guy who could say ooga booga and then the sun comes back, if he pretends to be acting on behalf of the gods or he can intervene or something, there's actually kind of a reason from the perspective of all the underlings to think, wow, I can't do that. He must actually be special. So maybe the gods really do, have chosen him to rule us. Maybe we really do have a moral obligation to obey. Well, today, we don't even have that good an excuse, because the people in Congress, they admit that, well, we're here because you put us here, and we're representing you, and for some reason that means we get to rule you.
No rulers. Do I get to rule myself, or the guy that pulled the sword from Excalibur, or Excalibur from the rock, and he says, I rule you? Why? Because I can. Well, what happens when they can't? That's what we're going to talk about all today when we come back on Larken Rose here and Declare Your Independence. just a little bit.